Welcome YouTube. Here, welcome to our channel at It's About Fam. Today we're doing a video here on my 1991 Galant VR4. I'm doing this video because I had posted a video on doing the Pittsburgh aluminum racing jack. People saw my in the background the Galant, so I got a few messages on about it, so decided to go ahead and do a video on it and do an introduction to it. I do have another channel which I've had through many years called Mr. Galant Guy. I've been posting on and off, and I haven't been really consistent. And I started this channel, so I'm going to kind of shift focus on the from that channel to this. I'm gonna be doing some updates on all our vehicles on this channel from here on out, and taking this opportunity to go ahead and introduce my 91 Galant VR4. Today we're going to talk about a little bit of history on it, my personal history with the vehicle, how I came about wanting one, and how I got it, and the build through the years. Obviously, I can't go back when I first got this vehicle in 2004. The build history. What I'll do is on my old channel, and I will post links in the description on some of the videos I have. But what I will do today is just do an introduction on the vehicle, on the Galant. Some gearheads already know about the Galant VR4, but for some of you that don't know, this is a Mitsubishi Galant. Obviously, this is a 6th generation chassis code E39A. Mitsubishi has a pretty rich heritage in racing, especially on rally, WRC, for their, I guess their passenger cars. Obviously, the Monteros for the Dakar. They have a very rich history, successful history. So just talking about the Galant, Mitsubishi actually started getting into the early 70s with their Colt Lancer. They had a lot of success with that vehicle. And then, a lot of their stuff they were dictating on how they were racing is the rules in the WRC and what manufacturers were doing. So they transitioned to the Starion, and I guess with Audi and Toyota introducing four-wheel drive and having a lot of success with it, Mitsubishi had to figure out to be more competitive. So they had a prototype Starion, but I guess they didn't find it feasible to be competitive with the group. So they took the Galant chassis, the 6th generation, and what they basically did is the legendary 4G63. They put that inside, and a four-wheel drive system they developed into this platform. They did that in the mid 80s to the very early 90s. They had good success. I won't say they had overwhelming success, but they had good success. They won a few races, but it gave them the chance to build on the experience and figure out what they need to do better. And then what happened, I guess the WRC changed rules. A lot of manufacturers were going to a smaller platform. So Subaru went from the Legacy to the Impreza. Mitsubishi, what they did is they took the 4G63 out of here and the all-wheel drive drivetrain and stuffed it into a regular Lancer, and there you go, the Evo was born. And I won't say much about that. A lot of you know about the Evo, the success it had. But yeah, a lot of people call this either Evo Zero or the granddad of the Evo, either or. This is kind of what jump started and gave birth, I guess, to the Lancer Evo. Probably will give out my age, but this is back in probably the late 90s. I knew about the Mitsubishi and Evos. I started liking the brand even before I actually owned a Mitsubishi, because I went to the Philippines, and my uncle had several Mitsubishis. He had a Delica van, he had an L200, and he had a Lancer Evo. So that was kind of my introduction to it, and I kind of just fell in love with it. And then I ended up getting a 95 Galant. Originally, I didn't want one. I kind of just needed it for college. My parents got me that car, but I did like the shape of it. Basically, you're young, and I was a young gearhead. I got curious and things I could do to it, and I went and found out other Mitsubishi guys around here locally, mostly DSM guys, were meeting up. So we would meet up somewhere around Orlando. From those guys, I kind of learned about the 4G63, learned about how turbos work and all that good stuff. I was kind of left out, couldn't really apply the knowledge because I had an automatic 1995 Galant with a single cam 4G64, which is very similar to the 4G63. It's just a larger displacement, but you know, it was knowledge. And one day there was a guy that was pretty famous back then that had a white Galant VR4, and it was the very first time I heard about it. The big thing about him was big turbo back then. Upgrade for Mitsubishis were the Evo 3 Big 16G, and he was one of the very first people locally to have that turbo. He came to the meet, and there's a highway called Highway 50, and we were meeting at a Walmart or a Lowe's parking lot, something like that. And there's a long straightaway before you turn in, and I saw this white, boxy-looking four-door sedan, and it was just making all these turbo noises. So he turned in, got closer. I just gravitated to the Galant VR4. He was giving out rides, and people were just saying how fast it was. Mind you, this is back in the 90s, and I got a ride in it, and he did a two-step launch all the way to fourth gear, and I was addicted. And at that moment, I wanted a Galant VR4, but I was a college kid, barely making ends meet, and but it was a goal of mine. And fast forward years later, I wanted to buy a house, and but I needed like credit stuff to establish credit. So I qualified enough for, like, you know, personal loan. It wasn't huge, but it was enough to buy a Galant. Um, so my search started. So on my search, these are already rare cars, even back then. I was trying to look for one. The main thing is a lot of people told me when I joined GalantVR4.org, which is primarily owners of these vehicles, that you got to watch out for the northern ones because of rust, like any other vehicle. I found like there were like two or three here in Florida, but the first two were just trash. Your normal DSM, secondhand. They did all these sketchy mods and a lot of ghetto stuff to it. Just didn't look right. And I came to a third one, which was near Ocala, and I drove over there to look at it. And I almost bit the bullet. And I kind of told the guys on the board that I was looking to buy this car based on the number. These are badged, and immediately I got a private message from a guy saying that was his old car and don't buy it. It was a rust bucket. Sure enough, when I looked at it one more time, the guy did a really good job disguising the rust with paint. So I didn't bite on it. It took another year to find this one. I found this one searching the internet. It was from a guy in North Carolina. He had built his own website on the build progress on the vehicle, but on the very last page, he had a for sale basic page on it. I contacted him, and it kind of just progressed. The communication was really good. He sent a lot of pictures. We talked on the phone. Um, Even though the car was several states away, this car was actually from North Carolina. I felt comfortable because the guy was very open and very clear with the communication. So it took a few months to negotiating and figure it out because the car wasn't really fully street ready. It wasn't really drivable. He was getting it to that point. Basically, if we figured out a deal, we made a deal, and I became the owner. Quick cool thing is I am the fourth owner of this vehicle. It was originally from Tennessee, and the second owner's was actually a race shop in Miami. And from the previous owner told me this used to be a race car that made like 600 horsepower back then. It was pretty gutted. Had all huge front mount, everything. Matter of fact, the front mount from that race car is still on this vehicle. It's a big Spirco front mount intercooler. But they were the second owners. Then the guy I bought it from, North Carolina, was the third owner, and he was trying to get it back, basically a street car. He got it up to a certain point, and then when I came and bought it, I kind of finished the rest. But yeah, I'm the fourth owner. That's where it is now. When I got it, it was basically stock. It didn't have much. It just had your standard intercooler piping and nothing crazy. So yeah, this is a 1991 Galant VR4. This one is badged at 1948 out of 2000. Um, Mitsubishi imported these for 2 years 2091 and 1992. This is 1948 out of 2000. It's a survivor out of all the 91 Gallants that came over here from Japan. Its initial setup was very simple, basically a stock motor, and I had to do a lot of stuff to replace some stuff that were missing. But generally, it was the best looking. There was no rust on it, which was the primary thing I was looking for. I could go forward and build and fix things. But other than my other Galant, this one I learned a lot, especially on the 4G63 platform and the drivetrain being an all-wheel drive. This is basically my first 4G63 turbo all-wheel drive car. It was very basic, but I made obviously I'm a gearhead. You want to make improvements, so I did little by little. It became my daily driver at some point. There's a lot of things that happened in my life, but my other Galant wasn't running. This became my daily driver. But yeah, I tried to make little progress here and there. At some point, the clutch went out on it. It had an ACT 2600. We're known for those ACTs. Was the spring on the clutch while it gave out. So that was basically an excuse to not only upgrade the clutch and replace it, to do more upgrades. So I took the opportunity to kind of just rebuild the motor. The motor in here is actually from a Galant VR4 RS. The Galant VR4 RS is the most powerful factory built Galant VR4 that came out of the factory. I believe the standard Galant 4G63s, Galant VR4s, came with 195 horsepower, 205 torque. The RS Galant VR4s came out with 200, I believe 206, 210 horsepower and 215, 220 torque. I'm not sure if the internals are different. I know definitely the injectors are different. That's the short block that's currently in the vehicle right now. I also did some head work, did a 3-angle valve job. We did all Super Tech valve train parts, the retainers, springs, and all that good stuff. And that's what's in there right now. It's been like that since 2006, 2007. It had 3G Eclipse GT wheels with that because I did a 5-lug conversion on it. Then I switched out the Evo 8 Enkis and I ran a 245/40/17 setup on it. So it was a pretty beefy tire, much wider than the OEM Eclipse 3G wheels I had. It was on an iBock ground control setup. Believe it or not, it's still on that same setup as we speak. It's still on that. Yeah, it was a fun little car. I mean, I was young and, you know, like a young kid. I did a lot of street racing. I had my fun with it. I didn't overly abuse it. I'd say I had fun, but I didn't abuse the car. But yeah, after 2008 and my wife almost getting in that really bad accident, and then about the same time, I mean, like a couple years later, found out we were having our son. My priorities changed. I couldn't really put a lot of money and time into the Galant. There was a point I almost sold it, but fortunately, my wife, oddly enough, talked me out of it. She knew that one day I'd regret selling it and probably be searching for another one, and she talked me out of it, and I'm glad she did. So after my son was born, I was able to, and I got back on my feet a little bit after finding a new job and all that good stuff. I was able to put some money, get back into it, uh, replace the turbo setup, redo the intercooler piping. I put 272 cams in there, redid the fuel system, went to a bigger turbo. So it's still on a first generation FP red and an FP cast manifold, towel blow off valve, towel wastegate, all that good stuff. And it's running a GM MAF. This thing is still stuck in the 90s, early 2000s, the technology. That tells you how long I haven't really done anything to the car. I've always wanted BBS wheels on on my Galant. I just didn't want to pay the BBS price. There was a couple style BBS wheels I wanted, particularly like the RX series, RX model, and then there was another Galant VR4 member that contacted me because he was selling his BBS RX, and they were perfect. The specs on it were exactly what I was looking for. we made a deal, and so I upgraded the wheels from the Evo 8 Inkies to BBS RXs. They're on there right now. They're in very good condition. I also, along when I changed the turbo, a bigger downpipe, and I had to redo the exhaust, so it's still full 3-inch. Once I got the motor running, I went ahead and redid the exhaust. For a while, it was just the downpipe, and it was really loud, and you'll see videos of that. So after I got the exhaust done, it was drivable. It wasn't my daily, but I did drive it once in a while. I think after like a year, it developed a crack in the manifold. That was about the time we were planning to have our daughter. And after we had our daughter, anyone that has children, it's the priorities change. I just couldn't put any real time into the vehicle, so it sat another few years. So it was basically back on jack stands. I didn't start getting back into it probably during the past 2 years of COVID. I was able to start messing with it again. The engine, I replaced the intake manifold. I cleaned up a few things. A couple months ago, last year, I went to basically get it running again. And what basically happened is I was filling the tank with fresh fuel, started leaking, and I had developed a crack on the fuel filler hose. I can't get mad. That's the original one that was installed in 1991. It had to give up at some point, so wasn't mad. I did buy a brand new one, fortunately, a couple years prior, so I'm set on that. But I was kind of curious the condition inside the tank, because since the crack happened on the fuel filler hose, I had a suspicion maybe moisture had gotten in, and I was kind of concerned if they're affected inside the tank. And sure enough, when I pulled out the fuel hanger, it was just in rust. It had a lot of rust. When I pulled out the tank, obviously the fuel is bad for sitting for so long, but I won't say the tank is fully contaminated with rust, but there's a decent amount of rust inside the tank. So that kind of delayed my plans. I was hoping to have it running this year and be able to drive it and continue forward with it, kind of updating it with more modern technology, but that didn't happen. So, but fortunately, my best friend got me a new tank and a new hanger. So we're just trying to figure out when we're going to be able to meet up and get it put on the vehicle. It's just, this video is just an introduction to give you guys who are interested a baseline as I continue to build this vehicle to get it running. You can follow the progress, because from here on out I will be posting videos as I make progress on getting it running and adding some parts, because I have bought parts throughout the years to do some upgrades in it, so I have to install them. do have like old ground controls and KYB AGX is on here. I have the new suspension in the trunk right now, and obviously I'm not going to show right now. I'll do that in a separate video. There's a lot of things I have to do. Obviously I'm going to have to update the engine management system. It's running on an EEPROM chip, Super AFC, and a MAF-T. I have to update it, so I'm looking at like DSM Link or Link G4, something like that. The goal of this car now is I had my fun with it. I raced it and all that stuff. I'm not aiming for massive horsepower. I really just want to enjoy the car and make it drivable and turnkey and not worry about all this weird stuff you have when you have a highly modded car. I really just want to enjoy this car on nice days with my kids and my wife, drive it around, maybe go to a couple like car shows. Some people can enjoy it as much as I do as far as seeing it. There's not a lot of these cars around. So from here on out, I will post updates on the vehicle. I will also post some updates on my other channel. So I know a lot of people that follow me in my Mr. Galant Guide channel follow it because of the Galants. And what I'll do is I'll post updates to probably have them come over to this channel, because I'm primarily going to be focusing all the builds of my vehicles on this channel, along with our adventures and other stuff that we do here. I will be doing a walk around video on it, give you more detail what's on it, what kind of parts are in there, its current state. But this is just merely an introduction video of my Galant VR4. So I mean, stay tuned. I mean, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button or that little bell button, so when I do post videos you get notification. So yeah, I mean, I thank you if you are interested in the vehicle, the Galant VR4. I mean, I love this car, and hopefully in my other builds as we make progress to it. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to post. But yeah, hopefully you can enjoy the ride or enjoy the journey as we get this Galant VR4 back up and running. Thank you.